I'm thinking through a few things here. It's funny, in the mornings, early in the morning is when I have the most energy, and I should probably just open up and get to talking right there. I have so many things going through my head. Now, mind you, it's jumping here and there, and I try to write. I write things down in point form. Sometimes in the morning I'm not doing it, but throughout the day and in the evenings especially. But I really wish, I'm like, what was it? I was shaving up, as you can tell. I did a wonderful shave job here. And I'm just thinking of these things. So like, I can't write it down. I'm shaving up. Like, I'm using my electric razor to bring it down a bit. It's getting pretty shaggy. Nonetheless, a lot of it is pretty positive stuff. I'm just thinking along the lines of the whole goals thing. And, you get to where you're looking to. And I don't know if I put that in the last video about how that works, like on literally just a physical level, like when you're working, right? So, in my work, I'll use a blade to cut, right? And what I do is, I don't look at where I'm cutting, right? You'll start going kind of all over, right? I look to where I want to go, and my hand goes there. See how that works? So, it's the same as, like, for a good example, many years ago, I used to paint. I was on a painting crew, and, whatever, I was supervisor there, and we had a bunch of different people, working in the crew. And there was this one guy. He was a young guy. I mean, I was pretty young at the time too, but I was like maybe 28 or something like that, or maybe even earlier. But anyway, he was like 19, 20. And this guy, he just couldn't figure out how to paint a straight line. Even we had edgers, an edger, you put that. I gotta hold this camera. But you know what a painting edger is, right? Like, you can't go wrong, right? But nonetheless, what I found, and I mean, if you're cutting when you're painting, it's the same thing. Like, I'm watching along. But this guy, no matter what, you try to teach him everything, he just couldn't do it. Wouldn't do it. Like, and we're talking, like, the worst mess all the time. We would have a laugh, like, because it was so out there. I wonder how he's doing in life. Who knows? There is a whole thing where, you how do you say, if you don't stress about something, like, things kind of can come easy sometimes, right? So he might be doing quite well, actually. Who knows, right? He'll get along. But nonetheless, it is important to always keep your goal in mind. Look to that, not look to what's going on right now. And you will momentarily, especially when, the shit's going down, right? Like, you're driving and somebody's, on the way here. And I actually made a little bit of a video on it. I don't know if I'd throw it in here or not, because I'm ranting. Because I had this huge rock, just this idiot's in this side lane, and he's like swerved over past the yellow line, so there's like a bunch of rocks and crap in there, and I hate it when people do that because they spit it out at you. Whatever he hit was like a boulder, man, and that thing spit out and smacked my windshield. It was so loud, it made my ears ring, and just big freaking hole in it now, like big round chip with a hole in the center, like, it's just bad. Anyway, and so I pull the camera and I'm ranting, right? And then right away, all of a sudden, there's a big rig and he's going slow in the fast lane, and then I kept seeing a lot of that. So in that moment, you're going to get caught in those little traps. Now, mind you, it was like a shock to the system, and that'll tend to get you going, right? But it wasn't that bad. It actually, even near the end of the video, I started talking about how that, it is what it is. Like, there's a lot worse going on in the world. And, I mean, today and all throughout history, got it pretty good. If I want to get somewhere that's like, 50 kilometers away or 70 kilometers away, I can do it in like under an hour, Back in the day, I don't think you could do that. And even these days, like, you could be in a situation where something goes wrong. I was watching a I Shouldn't Be Alive last night, and the guy, like, he falls off a cliff, and he's got to get back up over the cliff. That's the only way out of there. And he's got a crashed pelvis. It's just like excruciating. His leg is right out of the socket. Like, you know, and he has no water. He's right by the ocean, so you'd think there's water, but there isn't. Anyway, he you know, endured 3 days, just about dead, but he dragged himself out of there. So he wasn't getting 70 kilometers in under an hour. Yeah, it took him something like 8 hours to go 100 meters across sandstone. So ripped his clothes off, and actually, they even showed pictures. Actually, ripped his skin off. That's just bad. But he knew he had no choice. Keep going. Right? He had a goal in mind. Live. Just live. Right? Live and keep moving forward. You know, he knew it was late in the season and nobody was gonna be coming out there. And he only had so much time. He can only go so long without water, eh? Nonetheless, you know, there is lots of things. Like I was writing some stuff down. I'm just gonna take a quick look here and I'll probably just cut that out. You know. You know, like I do have a mention of this, like choose your words carefully. And it kind of falls back to that whole, you know, negative self-talk and such. But, you know, it doesn't even have to be about negative self-talk. It could be about, you know, positive self-talk or, you know. And it's not so much like that something has to be positive as per se. Like, you know, that whole daily affirmation thing, I believe it's good. It's better than saying crap to yourself. Like, how could saying crap to yourself be good? Like, I noticed there was a thing amongst younger people. And I think it's from the gaming world and stuff. And it's that whole... KMS or KYS, all that kind of crap, you know, and like saying that to people, God, why would you say that ever? And it's not a good mantra to have in your head, because I knew somebody that was young and they just said it all the time, and like for the dumbest things, right? And like even in full frustration and stuff, you know, and they're kind of like just generally miserable. They don't know it. I don't think. They do, but they won't face it. Nonetheless, you want to choose your words carefully, and you want to, yeah, careful what you wish for. When you're setting goals and such, you know, like sometimes you're just like, oh, like, okay, so say you're a young guy or whatever, older guy, it doesn't matter. You're like, oh man, I just want me a hot woman, and this and that. Yeah, you might get it, and then it turns out she's a psycho, right? You want that? No. Right? Careful what you wish for. Okay? You know, I want lots of work, and then you just get crappy work. It's just better to have the crappy work than none, right? But careful what you wish for. Like, try to direct your intention. And I've learned that lesson in the past. There's been things I wanted. Like, yeah, I want that piece, you know? And I get that piece, and then it turns out that's just psycho. Like, that's just... And, yeah, you know. But you want to choose your words carefully with yourself, with others. Buddy, what's your problem? Doesn't like me in here chit-chatting and stuff. You okay? Okay. Because that's part of the whole goals thing, you know, like what you're saying all the time in your head or out loud is where you're gonna go. It's where you're gonna go. You can be assured of that. And you know, so back onto the whole idea of goals more directly. Part of what stops people from getting to their goals, including myself, is those distractions. You want that dopamine hit. You want that fix. So you have goals, because that is technically I was thinking about that. I think that's what I was thinking about when I was shaving, which is that is technically a dopamine hit in itself, right? Having that kind of out there goal, maybe more long term or large goal. Like, you know, you want to have like financial freedom. You know, you want to have whatever it is you want, right? And it's a larger goal. Now, it's a dopamine hit sort of to think about it. It'll be a dopamine hit when you get there. But the problem is we don't associate the ride there with the dopamine hit. So then what we do is we kind of give up, like every day in little ways, right? Like you get up, you're like, okay, you know, I got energy, man. I'm feeling good. I'm going to go do this or whatever. And then you're like, okay, but then you kind of stop and have your coffee and your cigarette or your whatever, like, and you kind of go back into your habit, like, oh, I'm just gonna watch the stock reports or whatever it is you do in the morning. Like if you watch something, you have a certain media you put on, right? I'm just gonna do that because you're used to that, right? You still have that goal in mind, but you're not actually concentrating on it. And if you don't break down the old habits, they're kind of why you are where you are. They are your current goal, right? Oh, at night, I can't wait to just, like, and I've had that for years and years, where you can't wait until the sun goes down. And where I live more in the north, seasonally, it's very different, right? Like, so in like January or like, late December and January, the sun's down at like 4 p.m. And then in the middle of the summer in June, late June and July, it's doesn't go down until 11 something. But sometimes you just want the sun to go down, so you feel like now you can just relax and release, right? But if you have an anxiousness, maybe use that anxiousness towards an end, And another recommendation is, I heard this a few years ago. I had quit drinking coffee for, I think, 3 years at one point. And I started again, right? And I do drink coffee now. And then I was drinking a lot, like, 2, 3 a day. Usually 2 in the morning and then like 1 somewhere in the afternoon or something, right? And then I started getting pretty like anxious, and it just makes you just like, I don't know, man. It's a little harder to focus when you're anxious, right? So it's hard to direct that. But if you drink tea, okay, you can get used to it. Tea's pretty good. I like it. Apparently there's something in there, and I cannot find it. If anybody knows, you can let me know. But it's literally called like alpha. It starts with like alpha male, like alpha fetamine. Like, I don't think it's like an amphetamine or something, but it's like alpha fetamine or something like that. And at the time when I had heard about it, I was like immediately like, I was driving and I'm like, oh, I can't write this. I have nothing to write it down. I'm like, what the heck is he saying? And then I'm like, well, I can remember remotely. And I Googled and I tried everything and I can't find this. But this guy swears by it. And he says he thinks that's why the British was able to like have such an empire, is because they drank tea. So it literally puts you in more of an alpha wave than the beta wave that we're usually running in. The beta wave is kind of like a fight or flight, like, and you're just constantly trying to control things at a conscious level. Like, you're just kind of fixated in that. In, how do you say it? I don't know if so much the moment, because it's not really the moment. It's kind of like you're fearing the future and from your experience in the past, but in that moment. But those things are controlling things instead of just like an alpha state of you're all right and you can deal with what's coming. That is the state you want to be in, right? So I think your bodily health, like in general, the things you put into your body is going to play a role in that. It's gonna help you for sure. Because, okay, so I have this idea, I've always had this idea that, like, you're not your mind, and the mind does things to you, and I still stand by that. But I think there is, because I've heard more recently, or like I've probably always heard it, but you just finally start to connect things. Sometimes it takes a long time or repetition, and your mind's going off on one fractal, and then you gotta bring it back, and it might take like a few years. But anyway, what's going on in the body affects the mind, and what's going on in the body affects what's going on in the body is affecting the mind, and what's going on in the mind affects the body, right? So if you have negative thoughts all the time, you're going to have you're going to cortisol releases and such, and you're going to not feel so good in the body. So and kind of vice versa, like if your body's not good, you're not thinking good thoughts, like if you're not healthy, right? So really, I just think the mind is part of the body. The mind is probably like in the brain or something, like a physical thing, right? Because I do believe we're more than that, like our soul or whatever somebody wants to call it. That's the real us. That's the essence of us, and it's in this trap. And like the word trap sounds like a negative word, and I guess in a certain sense it is. But that is the yin and the yang in this realm. Like, there's beauty and there is the opposite of beauty. You know, like, there's the very ugly things that go on in this world. And, you know, there's that idea none of us are going to escape it alive, right? And I'm getting older. And, like, even strangely enough, the other night I was laying there and it just popped in my head because I'm turning 49 right away. And I'm like, dang, if I live to 70, right? Because you get, like, time goes fast. So, you know, I'm thinking from the perspective of, like, when I was 30 or 25, like, if I'm thinking, oh, 70, way off. But I'm like, dang, I'm like 49, I'm like 20, well, like 21 years away from 70. That's if I lived to 70. My grandfather passed at 60. Okay, and I think that was the thought, and it just, like, all of a sudden just gave me this pang, like, oof, what, I got like 10 years. I'm like, I don't even know that. I know a guy that passed just last year, and he was a year younger than me, and he was healthy. He, you know, he just got a little black spot on his tongue, and months later gone. And I mean, yeah, he lived the good life, right? But it was short. So it's another thing to remember, you know, when you're stressing about stuff. It's short. Try to enjoy your moments and control the things you can, okay? And try not to worry too much about the things you can't, or that you can't control, right? Like, somebody I know, a younger person, and they're just trying to control, like, sort of the people around them, and it's just not going to work. Like, it's just not what works, okay? I don't know anybody who can control me. And I'm pretty sure anybody that's listening to this feels pretty much the same way. So, you know, if you're in a relationship and you think it ain't right, then it ain't right. You're not gonna, you know, I mean, unless you want to change your mind on the perspective of it, but at least enjoy it if you're gonna be there. If you're not enjoying it, don't be there. Like, move on. You're not gonna change that person, right? And if they did something that bothers you, it's just gonna keep coming back, right? I mean, if you let it. So, and there's a high likelihood you will, right? So control the things you can, which is who you're going to be around. As you can see, I choose who I'm going to be around. The trees, the lovely trees. I do love the trees. You know, these ones are not exactly spectacular, but they will be one day. Nonetheless, yeah, you know, it's funny, like, all the energy, all the thoughts I have. Now, mind you, I was thinking about it a little bit tighter this morning, a little bit on a different, I'm trying to get the right light, and I can't even see if it can see me. I don't even know if I have a point on me. Okay, so I get all these ideas, but they go a little bit fractal. They go a little bit all over, right? So what I'm thinking is, and I do write a lot now, not all of it, but I might take the ones that I write down and try to write down more, and actually sit there and go, instead of, I like talking off the cuff, you know. It's just when you put a camera in your hand, you kind of get a little bit stymied by it. Like, you know, if I was just talking to, you know, my friend's son or something like that, you know, I could really go off. And I know that sometimes they love hearing me, because I could talk about a lot of stuff. That's why I made the channel Talks Yak'em. Because I'm always yakking and talking. But, you know, that's one thing I gotta learn. I gotta learn to listen more. But I find it funny, maybe, like, the people that I know, okay, I don't want to hear them talk, okay? It's funny, I can listen to even just the dumbest dipshit on YouTube, and I guess because, like, and they, like, I'm not the kind of person that, like, goes into the chat and, like flips out and, like, totally wrong. Like, they might say something wrong that I believe is wrong. But I'll enjoy most of what they're saying, you know. Nonetheless, if this video is supposed to be about goals, I missed the goal. That's how that goes, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, sort of, not really. I wanted to get out some videos. I have shot a lot of footage of me yabbing and talking about things. I just haven't, like, put it together. Sometimes I'm like, that kind of went sideways, like this one, you know. That other day I posted that video because about the be careful about the negative thoughts, because it was a very direct topic, and I tried to stay on point, and I just felt a little bit more focused and pumped that day. Like, I was a lot more pumped this morning, but by the time I got out here, it was a little later, and just a whole kerfuffle getting out, and there is some concerns right now. Like, it is the end of the month, and I'm gonna have to do some financial wizardry to survive it. Which I will. I didn't get this far in life. Like, I didn't live this far in life without, I don't know, living in a tent in the middle of the city. By not getting through, I got through, right? And I think a lot of, like, we feel a lot of stress about these things. Stress ain't actually, well, okay, dang it, that's gonna bring you two ways. The stress ain't gonna do nothing. The stress can get you to do something, okay? I watched a documentary, I don't know, a few years back, and it was about that, where they found that, like, there was companies, and the example was an airline, and the airline had been selling off planes to keep going and pay debts and keep going, and they were down to the last plane. And they were just being defeated. And so their backs were up against the wall, and they changed this plan to be the fastest turnover in the world, like, as far as from landing, refueling, the checks and everything, loading and getting going again. And that actually turned them right around, and they became the fastest in the world for turnarounds. And then their whole company turned around. But it wasn't until they got to the back of the wall. There's a science on it. Like, sometimes you have to have your back up against the wall before you make a move, right? Which really makes you think, maybe not wait till then, right? Nonetheless, I don't know if I hear people out there or what I heard. There's hunters and such out here. I swear I heard a voice. Yeah. So, that would be where the goals thing comes in too, is you don't want your goals to be like, well, I'll just wait till the last minute and it'll work itself out. That's good to keep you relaxed and not too panicky and doing dumb shit, right? But maybe focus on what you want to get to. I know a lot of people would be, because this is my issue too sometimes, or has been, and even right now, especially right now actually, because my industry has changed so much. So my goals before were to get in it, get back in the game, right? But it's changed so much that now I'm like, okay, so what is the goal? Like, it's kind of hard to like get myself to somewhere, I don't know where it is, right? So I'm looking at right now from the side of just, well, I know that I got to get out of debt. I will be out of debt. And I will, buy some land. Again, I had land. I will, just get myself out of this first off. But I'm looking more at, like, where I want to be. And I want to be in a place where, the truth is, like, how I would like to live is really just have myself a nice piece of land and enough of an income where I can at least afford to, kind of just build small stuff on it and live. Oh, he's a nice little birdie. I love birds. I don't know if you can see it for the glare or anything. Birds are just the best. Hey there, little guy. Too bad he's in where the sun is. How's it going, buddy? How you doing? Just hopping around, huh? Think I got some seeds for you? See, that's what I want to do with my life. I'd like to be, like, I don't know, outside my small little cabin. I don't need a whole lot, I mean, it'd be nice to have, like, a good chunk of money and have it invested where you're kind of getting a dividend each year, and it helps you survive, and you can do the things you love. My goal is to fly like a bird. So cool. Seeing is free. I don't know why people would want to clip their wings and put them in cages just to hear them making a bunch of noise in their place. It's weird. I mean, I love birds. Why would I do that? I just hang out outside and, like, let them hang out with you. And they do. They hang out with you. I'll be walking along, man, and they'll hop on the trail right in front of me, like for like a kilometer or more, like just hop, and then they'll hop up into a tree and they'll hop down and walk in front of you. Like I've actually got some pretty crazy videos and stuff like that. A chicken that I made friends with. So anyway, that's my goals. Sort of. I mean, yeah, pretty much. It's kind of simple. I was gonna say sort of, but I mean, ultimately, yeah, it's always been that way. I have lived a pretty peaceful life. I just put myself into a pile, and I really think the addiction to alcohol really is what did it. And the addiction to not working a 9 to 5, right? What's his name? Sean James, My Self-Reliance. There's a video of his where and I saw it a few years back, and like long time ago, and he, he usually just builds quietly and such, eh? But at the end of the video, he did this little, I think 20-minute bit, and talked about how like he had a company, and he was worth a lot of money and such, but he had a partner. He says things went sideways, right? Like and he got left holding the bag, and like basically he was going to court. He was being like taken down by the government and by everything, and it was just bad for him, right? He had to pay millions. He's like, and he couldn't bankrupt it. There was no way out of this one. And he said so he had to go work for his competition, right? While dealing with all the stress of going to court. What are you gonna say? I don't have it. I don't know. And he worked for his competition, and then he slowly rebuilt his business. And once he got kind of large enough, I think he made it back into the millions of dollars status. He decided, I had enough of this world, and that's where he started doing his other thing. And that's kind of how I see this. Is I don't know so much I want to, like, I don't want to own some large corporation, and I don't know, I wouldn't want to do that. It's just not for me, eh? And I don't know, like, anybody listening to this, what they're thinking. You might be the type of person that's what you want. You're like, I want Lambos and, yachts and bikini girls and stuff. But a lot of times what happens is truly the state owns that stuff, okay? You're just borrowing it. And they'll find a way to come and get it, okay? I mean, if you're living large, they're going to show you who's in charge, right? Not always, but I mean, like, one way or another, they're just going to find some regulatory thing out of the 18,000 rules, and the, 170 agencies will find something on you. Yeah. Yeah. And if you want to be president, they'll come at you. Come up with all sorts of crazy shit. Nonetheless, I don't know what that has to do with goals. I also there is things that interest me. Like, I have other channels that I've started, and I have like one that I've started out with this idea, and I'm just trying to like figure out exactly where I want to hone it into, right? But it's stuff that interests me. I mean, some of it, I guess people would call it entertainment, but to me, it's like, it's history. It's things that happen to people. I like real life stories of things. So I wouldn't mind, like that's sort of a goal, to share that, put it out in a good way, in a way that's like entertaining, and people can learn from it, like, about history. Like, history's nuts. If you're younger right now, you gotta look into it. It'll get your head out of your ass a little bit, right? Like, it'll make you realize, like, it could actually all turn around real fast, like for the worse or the better. But like basically, like, if you think things are bad now, like, it's good. It's real good. And I get it. Like, the world it's pretty twisted and sideways. And to that end, I also think, like, I noticed this. I think I was thinking about it last night or the night before. Like, with everything that's going on, in the Middle East and in Russia, Ukraine, and all that, with that kind of a thing, like, there is a stress. Like, you don't know, like, tomorrow, like, some old a-hole could, say, yeah, you know what, let's strike them there. And then they say, okay, well, you didn't know we were allied with them, and now we're all just, you ain't never seen bombs over there. You're getting them now, right? Like, you ain't never seen that. Well, it's coming, right? You don't know. That could happen. But at the same time, maybe not. It could just be a whole bunch of posturing and a whole bunch of crap. Like, I remember in the 90s when when the U.S. was doing their thing to Yugoslavia and Serbia and such, I was just like, whoa, dude, that's behind the old Iron Curtain. Like, you can't be flying planes in there like that and doing that. Like, we're all done, you know. And just all the different like things that happened, like the L.A. riots there with the Rodney King and that was beforehand, and then the World Center, all these things, like they have changed things. Okay, like they've changed things. It's all kind of happening slowly, but either way, like they didn't like create absolute, like, how do you say, the end of all things right now, right? And we can just hope that that's not going to happen on that end. And there's not much you can do about it. That's one of the things you cannot change. You can prepare for it in a certain way. Like, there's ways to prepare for those things and hope for the best. And, really look at history and see what the people got away, what they did, versus the people, or you could even look now. If you were in the Ukraine, the day before Russia came in, the news, and they've admitted that they full well knew Russia was coming. But, the news told everybody, oh, no, they're not coming. It's just rumors. Come on, don't be silly. Don't be a conspiracy theorist. And then, then they came in. And then everybody was on the highways at the same time. And their cars were running out of gas. And they could get all blocked up, trying to get through borders on, just look at history and look at the way the world works around you and just don't do it the same way, right? I've heard many wealthy people say that, right? Like, people will be like, well, what's different between, you and me or whatever? And they'll say, like, I don't do what you do. You know what I mean? That's true. They don't. They tend to do things very differently. And sometimes people will be like, well, you're, I don't know, like, if you go into a certain world, a corporate world or something, I'd be like, oh, you're a dipshit. You're not a douchebag like me. They're not going to say it like that, but that's what it sounds like to me. Okay? You're a douchebag like me. You don't have Lambo goals and stuff. I don't have Lambo goals. I mean, hey, if I had $20 million invested at 5% and I'm making $1 million a year, so that's 83,000 a month, I might buy a Lambo. Why not? But I don't know. I'd probably get a Corvette. I like Corvettes. Nonetheless, I don't know. I kind of went all over the place on this. I'm gonna continue on my hike. I just have a feeling there's somebody nearby listening to me. Yeah, I really wish I was out here earlier this morning when I had all those thoughts running through my head. And I might not have got that rock chip. That would have been great. But, see, I can't change that. It already happened. Right? So why focus on that? Although it'll be on my windshield, so I won't focus on it, because I was just thinking, actually one of the thoughts I had right away was, thank God it wasn't like right here in my face. Like, it would suck. It's actually kind of really low, but it's near the edge, so that means there's a higher chance of it cracking. Anyhow, I'm just talking. There's interesting topics, and this just ain't it. Nonetheless, I might come back on. I'm gonna have to edit this sucker up. Just a couple of quick ads in here. Or like additives, not ads like advertisements, but let's see here. Maybe I'll just read this one. Is this the one I was looking at? Yeah, why not? I'll just kind of read at it and see where it goes. So, regrets. Why did I do that? I did it for a reason. At that moment, reason is just a season, but still a reason. Let's try not to regret our past, but recognize it as part of our goal, our goal at this realm, and the things that are coming at us day by day. We can also change our reason. So you can change that reason, right? Like, how do you say? In other words, so then you might do something different. I think that's what I mean by that. So there's a quote: "A woman's prerogative is to change her mind." It is important for the feminine and the masculine to both understand this. So there is a little bit like, you want your goals, right? But you know, like I see something else in here about, when I was young, actually, I forgave my father when I was like 17. He wasn't around, right? Like he left when I was 1.5, right? And he came back, and he's always had issues. He still does. And I remember when I was 17, just telling him like, yo, I mean, he had me when he was 18. My mom was 19, right? So when I was 17, and I mean, I had to live with my mom, so, and I love her dearly, but I understood, he was young, and not only that, he came out of a very, rather abusive home, very, and so whatever, I just gave him forgiveness. I really didn't hold anything against him. I still don't. There's times I might feel a bit sad that it kind of all went this way, right? And I know he does now. That's what other family members tell me, like, and when I've seen him now and again, and like he drinks a lot, right? But I can't remember what it was. I said something the last time I saw him, and he started just like crying. At first I was confused because he doesn't cry. He's an asshole. You know what I mean, right? Like that's how I know him, right? Like, I mean, he's a good guy. He's a funny guy, like when he's drinking and stuff, but otherwise he's just an asshole. Not very good at like bonding and stuff, right? So anyway, yeah, he was like crying, and I remember like just like thinking like, why is his eyes all tearing up and stuff, and I can't remember what the heck I said, but I think I was just trying to retell him like hey, I may not see you and stuff, but I still love you, and because I'm the kind of person that has no problem saying stuff like that to people. I don't know if he's ever said it to me. No, there's never been a time that I remember it anyway. Nonetheless, I forgive him. Forgive him a long time ago. And it's good to do that. Like, it's good to just like look at the other person's perspective. Look at you're not going to change anybody else. You're only going to change yourself. So hating on somebody for doing something, imagine you were them. This is the way I think of things, is like, if you were me, you would be me. You would be right here, right now, doing exactly this because you were me. If I was you, I'd be doing you. Like, I'd be, so look at that other person. Like, you could look at some of the wickedest people, and that's because it's them. Like, that's their history. That's the way they were born, even. Like, the whole nature and nurture. Like, they might have been born, like, missing a few, missing empathy or something, right? So, in that case, I guess, you're just best to get away if you can. But that really just always leads back to the only thing you're going to change is you. You're not going to change the people around you. You can slowly if you talk to them. And I mean, like if you talk to them nicely about stuff, and just slowly over time, and maybe they'll want to change themselves, but you're not going to change them, right? Like no addict that's, come out of that, nothing anybody did to them, or said to them and stuff. I mean, I'm sure it rang some bells and stuff here and there, but it didn't take them out of it in the moment. No, it had to sink in, and they had to make the change. So anyway, that's another part of it. Like, it's a prerogative to change your mind. You think, oh, I just want to chill out. I'm gonna play a video game. I'm gonna fap. I'm gonna, like whatever it is, like you're just gonna do that's like gonna sort of like waste your time or feed you that dopamine. You can change your mind. You'll be like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I got this other thing I could do. And in fact, there's always tasks, right? Like some days, like I just hit the tasks. I got so many. I got quite a pile of stuff at home, and I've been selling stuff off because I'm like, I'm just tired of just like hoarding things, And I get it, like mostly organized and stuff, but I've just found I used to have a good organizing stuff is actually just like a thing I love. I've always loved my whole life, but I noticed, while my life was going down and I was becoming an alcoholic, and then when I was full on, everything just kind of it's semi-organized, but it's kind of a pile. Like I'm not exactly sure where things are, and most of it I just don't need. So what I've been doing is like I'll get home, I'll be like sitting there, and a lot of times too, like you eat, you cook, you eat, and then you're like, okay, I can relax. And you actually just like, and I don't know if it's just because I'm older or what the deal is. I mean, I do have narcolepsy too, so that plays a role. But I'll just sit there and I'll start like being like, I could just nod off right now, like, you know. But if you're just sitting there, you're gonna nod off. You're just gonna do the lazy thing, flip through your phone, turn on the TV, and at that point, you're not choosing to change anything. You're gonna do what you're gonna do and say, oh, tomorrow I'll do that. Tomorrow me can deal with that, but tomorrow you is gonna feel the same. But you know what feels really good? Just try it out. Get up, start moving, go to the kitchen, grab some water, you know, like start moving around, and all of a sudden you start waking up, and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna go do that thing. I gotta repair that camera, or I gotta whatever it is. There's something in your life you gotta do. Go clean your car. go clean your room. You know, go through some of your stuff and get ready to donate it or recycle it or throw it out or whatever. You know, like there's stuff to do. And you'll notice like a lot of like there's like old dudes, right? Old dude that owns my building. He's in his 70s. But like I always joke with him and say, no rest for the wicked, because it's an old time saying. Because that guy just don't stop moving, you know. And maybe if he did, he wouldn't be here anymore, you know. You get all lethargic and your body will just say, okay, so we're done, you know. You don't want that. And if you're young, take advantage of that. Like live life. You don't want to be at my age and be like, oh, I pass this up, I pass that up. I've done a lot of crazy things. I like doing the crazy things, you know. I mean, like in the woods and stuff. That's just kind of like what I like to do. But yeah, you know, live your life while you're there. Enjoy it. I suggest if you haven't heard of, and it depends if you can handle them or not. I like them. What's his name? Owen Cook. He's got a good run on how things work. And you know what? Learn psychology. Learn neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. You'll know what I noticed over the years is, because I've learned a lot of it, I don't really practice a lot of it, but it helps you understand things, and you could see it in other people. And I notice all successful people, I'm like, and a lot of the actors, like the male actors that people, you know, look up to, and, you know, like, you'd want to be like that or whatnot, they have an NLP, for sure, background. They know how to set the stage and be that. And that's why they're on the top, you know, or part of why, you know, there's a little bit of a cabal going on there, but yeah, that's part of why is, you know, you're not going to sit there and watch a dipshit, you know, acting like a hero, but he's tripping and falling and he just doesn't really exude confidence. It's not what people are looking for, right? Especially when you're going to watch like Mission Impossible or something. I think it's Tom Cruise. There was another one. Was it Robert Downey Jr.? I think Tom Cruise has like saved 2 people in his real life. Like, so they'll jump into action because they actually have acted it out so many times, right? So that's why people train. That's why, like, you know, you could have a guy that's like, you know, he's like, oh, he's gonna go on a spree or something, and the police come along. Well, they've trained, right? And that kicks in that moment, right? So you just can't beat training, okay? You just can't beat, you know, enacting things. So that's a thing that you gotta do, and I really do believe you can go over things in your head, go over scenarios in your head and what you would do, and it'll actually happen. I've taken different training on you know, martial arts and such throughout my life, but, you know, being in the woods, and like, I'm not that far out right now, but I've been in some places deep out and by myself, and like, I don't know what I'm gonna run into, and you know, I always picture, okay, I gotta do this and this, you know, like the bear spray goes in this hand, I don't have a gun on me, right? Like, you know, and the knife in this hand. Why? Because the bear spray is for further and the knife is for, you know, close, when he comes in close. If the bear spray doesn't do it, that's the best I can do, right? Like, you know, but I plan it out in my head, I kind of stage it and stuff. over and over and over. And then there was an incident where a cougar came after. I was with a girl and a dog, and we were out there, and building a shelter. It was late November. It was in the snow. We were building a shelter, and a cougar came right through and wanted the dog. And that cougar wasn't being very nice at all. And it was so weird because she was screaming and running, and she was trying to save the dog. And I just calmly just yelled, "Don't run, don't scream," as I'm getting my stuff ready. And I'm heading down hopping over the stuff and down the bridge. And I get down there, and there's just a standoff, and this cat's in a fighting mode, man. Like, it's reared back, its teeth are out, its ears are back, it's just like growling at me. And I do the thing like that I, learned, make yourself big. And I'm not a big guy. Make yourself big. Luckily it was winter, so I had a winter jacket on, help. And I make myself big, and I'm yelling, "Go! Get out of here!" Now, mind you, when I yelled at this one time, I yelled really loud. There's one thing I didn't do right, or didn't really recognize in the situation, and it was that the cat was backed up. It was a big cougar. Like, it had the most beautiful eyes. Anyway, I just wasn't thinking about it that way. I just wanted it to leave us alone, right? Like, it literally touched me when it went by for the dog. It could have had me. So anyway, it was backed up against like a big, like a coniferous tree in the snow, and it was just like, and when I yelled that one loud, just "Go!" it looked at me like, "Okay, buddy, you want a piece?" or whatever, and it slid its one paw forward, and it was already down, like it was already ready to pounce, but it just a little bit more, and I just said, "Screw it," and I hit the bear spray. It worked out great, because you ever see a dog go after the water, like you spray a hose and they try to bite the water? That's what the cat did. It actually bit the bear spray, and it kind of gave it a look, right, and then it just took off around the tree and gone. So anyway, it was funny. I was like so calm, like I was yelling at it because I was trying to make it know that like I'm not pissing around, right? Like, but really, like, even when it was going down, like what I realized, like how it was the girl was sitting on a big fallen tree, like big, like these two right here, like all in one, like very just a big sucker, and like down below was the valley. And when it brushed past me, I turned around and I said something because I thought it was the dog and he was messing with my fire, and I'm like, I said like, "Yeah, if you." Dog's name, and as I turned my head, because she turns to look at me like, "What are you talking about? The dog's in the valley in front of me, right?" I realized, like, oh crap, like the cougar was right in her face. Like, she turned around and it was literally like this, like it was right in there. It was close, and anyway, like, so she ran off screaming. Like, she says to get the dog, and I believe so, but you don't run and scream. That's off that predator thing, eh? So I was just yelling, "Don't run, don't." I'm not even yelling, literally just calmly saying, "Don't run, don't scream," out, like loudly enough so she could hear down in the valley as I loaded up. But anyway, so I hear if you practice things, you get good, and that is even in your mind. So it's practice in your mind, and it's good to be like, you don't want to sit and. Let's say you're like thinking like, okay, say you got a girlfriend and you're like, okay, what if right now somebody busted in here, I mean, you should always be thinking that way anyway. like realistically, be a man about it, right? Like, you should be thinking about these things because it does happen. What are you gonna do? And you don't always have to think of like an aggressive thing to do. Like, sometimes maybe the best thing to do is to, comply, keep an eye open for an opportunity, but don't trigger anything, But anyway, you can think about it, and you should think about it maybe standing up. If you find you start getting an anxiety thinking about it, stand up, move around, work that out, get the body moving. Anyway, that's what I would do. Well, I'll leave that part of it here. I don't know where I'm going to fit that into any video, but we'll see. Kind of back to a goal thing. For me, a goal would be to, do what I'm doing now, right? right? But with a financial freedom, so that I don't have to race back into town and move the digits around and figure out how I'm gonna end the month. And a lot of my life was like that. So I actually lived my goals in a certain sense of taking it easy and such, except for, and then when I did have the business and it was going good and I made a lot, I could have just done something different there. But I guess that's just how it goes, you know, when you get your first whack of success in life, you know, you're just gonna do some dumb shit. And I did, and the perfect person for that, to help me out with that, came along, and they usually will. Like it was part of the whole careful what you wish for. Definitely, right? Like, you know, I wanted some of that fun. And, you know, and I remember as it was going down, I remember looking in the mirror and thinking, like, I could sense the disaster, the impending doom, but I had a lot of room to move, like financially. And I'm pretty frugal anyway. I always happy my whole life. So if you have a lot of money in the bank and you're not into really spending it, and the thing about it, this disastrous situation, well, it involved a she, and she wasn't like a gold digger. It was just really a toxic person in general. And I figured myself smart enough to be able to bend that a bit, but it just didn't work out that way at all. In fact, I got bent. It was part of that whole, like, you know, if you try to save somebody if they're drowning, right, and they start pulling you down, like, you gotta let them go. Well, I didn't let go. I mean, literally, I find myself thinking things, like, to this day, or, you know, like, I hear them say something, because our contact is limited. Try to keep that limited, but it's like, yeah, ain't nothing changed. And really, when I learned about that personality disorder itself, like right at the beginning, there were certain things I would say, like, to her, and I'm just thinking, like, dang, I was right on the money. I was right on the money then. But I didn't know what it was. Like, I didn't know how much of a disorder it is, you know, and how, like, so some of this, like, a wisdom I'm trying to impart about, like, you can't change other people, it comes from that. I mean, it's not like I thought I could before, but I mean, I did. I guess I was just delusional, thinking, like, you know, people gave a damn what I had learned, and because I do spend a lot of time learning Gnosticism, alchemy, the whole psychology, like law, like just everything. And I just figured, so it doesn't really matter, like, you know, you could be hanging out with whatever superstar you think, you know, whether it's like sports, or they're somebody who's made it in the world of business, or they're where you want to be, you know. Say you're a trader, or you want to be a trader, and you're like, oh, you know, I would be just like that person. Yeah, it'd be great to have them as a mentor, but if you're gonna be a dumbass and you're not gonna put it to action, first off, they're likely to be smarter than I was, and I'm not saying I'm like great and should have been some mentor. I'm just trying to say, like, they're gonna dump you pretty quick if they're smart, you know, if you're not doing it. So, and the way I look at these things too is that you don't have to do it all at once. So that whole saying of, like, you know, like, when things are going bad, and I do believe in this saying quite a bit. Okay, I'll get to that later. But I believe in that saying that, like, if, you know, people ask when it comes to health or wealth, like, how did it go? And they were like, you know, slow at first and then all at once, right? And that's on the crash, you know, like when you're coming down. But it's also on the come up. So I don't know if I put that in the last video, but it is something that's just in my mind a lot, so it'll be repeated. I imagine I'll be repeating things, especially since at this point in time I don't I go a little bit more ADD style. I don't formulate a plan and you know, like script it all out and such. Which it may do sometime, eh? Maybe that's something I gotta work on. I don't know if it interests me. It does, because it would get it done right and formulated. And like I've said just a bit earlier, I really like organizing things. Like my way of doing numbers and paperwork and stuff is just, I'm not gonna lie, it's phenomenal. Like I'm really into that. I've always been into it since I was a little kid. I didn't have a father, but I had a grandfather, and he had a business. And I just loved to have a desk with some pens and some papers, and I just loved that stuff. And so, like, even when it came to paying all that enormous amount of taxes I had to pay when I was making money, it was very easy to figure out. When I would give it to my accountant, he was like, oh, geez, like, it's done. Like, you pretty much got it done, you know? You just had to enter the numbers into that extra code formulation that accountants get. So they call it accounting code. And, but all the numbers were there, and they all double checked, and everything was good. So nonetheless, it's not that I couldn't, but to me, this is more like of a free thinking, maybe more my right brain, you know, like more artistic side. You know, I'm talking and thinking about things, and sometimes it's a little bit even more esoteric. So I like to flow that. I don't really want to write it into a book. And I think that I see people that are like, you know, there's somebody that I've watched for years, and I really find great peace in this person. It's Savan Bomar, Inner Standing. And I swear, like, when he's talking, like, I know that, like, most people, I've had people, like, I've been like, you gotta check him out or something, and they're like, I don't know what the heck he's talking about. I'm like, yeah, I know, like, you gotta have, like, a base. You gotta have, like, all sorts of, like, different knowledges about different things, like, because that gets into, you know, alchemy and esoteric type stuff. But not only that, like, he's also principled in the world, right? Like, how to function and how to see things and move forward. Anyway, there were times as I was on the come down, and I had, like, just a lot of stress or whatever in there, and, you know, I'd listen to it. It would just make me feel peaceful. But anyway, a person like that can really formulate these ideas and make a great presentation with it. I don't know if that's me. I'm a bit more of a walk and talk, you know. Anyhow, I hope I can put something together here without too much editing, because the editing is where I start to do the paralysis by analysis section, and I really don't want to do that. I really just want to get some info out there, get some thoughts out there, share what I'm feeling and thinking, and hope for the best for anybody that's watching. Anyway, I'm near the parking lot here, so have a good one.